So this is the dreaded post-lunch talk, the bane of all speakers. I'm glad to warm up the stage here for the Lord, though, of course, to take over. And I made my holy hour during lunch and was praying for you and praying for what words to share, because while we were here this morning, the results of the election were supposedly proclaimed, and supposedly the new president is speaking to the nation tonight. And then I turned off my news app right away because I was like, well, that's a good way to ruin a good retreat right there. So, because, you get going into this thing and you actually start believing that heaven is on the earth and that we are his army, and then the real cold dose of reality comes back again. And I'm not speaking just about the political environment. I'm speaking about all the challenges in our life. We're going to leave here and go home. And how do we really equip you practically for the battle? Okay, what are you supposed to actually do? First talk was getting you pumped up, realizing that the victory is yours if you choose it, and that we can, in fact, engage, and that we're made to engage, and that it's supposed to be tough because our job is to bring peace into war, and etc. And we have chosen and engaged in that battle, and so let's go. Let's stop thinking it's supposed to be easy and that there's a problem because it's hard. It's supposed to be hard. There'd be a problem if it was easy, because we're here as the warriors of Christ. And as I thought about that, I said, well, what does that actually mean? And I was praying in front of our Lord, and what came to me was quite simple. Tell them about me. I said, dang, Jesus, you always seem to get it right. So we talk a lot about St. Paul. We talk a lot about St. John Paul. I want to talk to you about Jesus Christ right now. Because when I look at his life, I see a pattern of our own. The whole battle theme, right, that I love to talk about. Let's make sure we get this straight. The battle is not between me and Planned Parenthood. Right? And it's not between me and the pornography industry, which is decimating you, by the way. And you're all like, what? Exactly. Decimating you. It's a big monster that's eating your soul. Fight it with confession and stop horsing around. Okay, good. Got that out of my system. You guys got to fight it. You cannot allow this. Oh, well, it's me and my wife, It's like, that means both of you are going down. It's not allowed, ever, period. Mortal sin. Try it again. You can't do it. And if you are doing it, you get to confession right away. And if you've been doing it since I was 14, well, that's fine. Today's a good day to stop. Right? So because the battle is not between me and that, or me and whatever it is, the battle is between God. Well, it's actually between God. It's between the devil and God. Because God always wins. He's not even in the battle. It's not like, oh, I'm really wrestling. This devil's a tough one. It's that the devil is enraged against God. And you are the image of God. And so he attacks you because he hates God. I'm just like in the middle here. The devil's not like, oh, Father Nathan, he's a real tough one. He's like, but when Father Nathan stands in God, well, then number one, he attacks me on behalf of his hatred for God. But number two, I resist him by the power of God. And this is where we talk about spiritual warfare. But you see, the key to spiritual warfare is not, what kind of things can I do to kind of attack the devil? It's real simple. The moment you disappear into Jesus Christ and you let him reign in your life effectively is the moment that you resist the devil and you win against the devil. And that the devil is defeated through you by God. So my focus has got to be on God and on disappearing into that mystery of Jesus, embracing him so profoundly that he shines through me. The more that I disappear, the more that he appears. And I don't disappear by not existing. I disappear by falling in love with him, by surrendering to him, by allowing him to live his mystery in me, My life becomes an image of Jesus Christ. So when I look at that, then I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually understand then why I have so many problems. Like, why did this election happen? Why did the election happen? Why did this happen? This law was passed. Why are the gray wolves introduced again? By a bunch of people who live in Denver, never going to see a wolf. It's like, I don't know, but there they are. Do you want to protect children? No. Do you want to protect the wolves? Yes. I might be okay with the wolves if we were okay with the abortion thing too, but like this is weird, but such is the world we live in. You look at all of this, guys, and I want to just tell you the mystery that you're living is Christ living in you. When I look at his life, I see a rugged man. I'm going to underscore how hard his life was, because I don't think you've maybe realized when we think of Jesus, usually he looks kind of wimpy, to be honest with you, and then when he does look like strong, it's like this wimpy kind of strength. I mean, it's a weird thing. You actually look at Christ as the rugged man. It's like, let me just think about how rugged his life was. Well, number one, of course, you think about his birth. That was pretty rugged. I mean, he doesn't even get to be laid in a bed. He's laid in a feeding trough. Okay? The manger it comes from the French word mangeoire. Mangeoire means the feeding trough. It's where they put the food. And Joseph, talk about rugged man, he was the husband of the greatest woman of all time. Talk about, again, like, a little bit of an intimidation factor. If your wife is the Virgin Mary, like, oh my gosh, he's a little bit outclassed, old Joe. And so he's like, he stood up to the challenge because he was awesome. But then you go, he's like, all right, I got God's mother as my wife, and my one job is to provide for her. And I can't even get into the inn. I think about that moment a lot, right? Because those were Joseph's cousins. Everyone, all of the family went back to the hometown. So that was all of his kin. K-I-N, kin. That was all of Joseph's kinfolk that were in that inn. And so he says, hey, one of our cousins here, Mary, she's about to give birth. I got to get her into this inn. And he was denied access. Probably because he didn't have any money. Probably because he wasn't the fanciest one. Probably because you had a whole bunch of jerks that made this world terrible and put him out where the animals lodge to have the birth of his firstborn son where the animals lodge. And one job is to provide, and he's got to lay him in a feeding trough, right? It's just an amazing amount of humility from St. Joseph as he realizes that this child who is protected by God, who is the Son of God, is destined for the cross. Begins his life in a feeding trough. And then after that, of course, you got the fact that he's rushed off into Egypt, and Joseph's protecting his son by running from a king who wants him dead. The great cry went up in Ramah of loud cries and lamentation, for the children were no more. And he listens to the cry go up in Ramah as he makes us all the way to Egypt. All of a sudden, he's already an exile. And he's got to bear for his son in Egypt. When the Lord does go back, he lives in Nazareth, which is a town looked down upon, not in the heights of the city, not in the fancy, big city of Denver. He's about in Colorado Springs. Cast off on the side of Nazareth. And living in Nazareth, of course, you're like, well, that must have been fun. It wasn't fun. Look at John chapter 7, where it says, John chapter 7, verse 4, that his own family did not believe in him. So now you're the Son of God sent to save these sinners, and your own cousins scoff at you. They don't even believe you. I mean, think about the solitude of Jesus and the solitude of Mary. I mean, you think that, no, it was a glorious thing. Jesus came into this world and then people believed in him. No, look at it. He came into this world and they did not believe in him. And he would heal people, heal the sick. And you know what they would say to him? They wouldn't obey him. He'd heal the sick and say, don't tell anybody. And they would go around telling everybody. They didn't even respect him. He's like, dude, I just saved you. You know, the guy's like, I can't see. Look, you can see. Oh my gosh. Don't tell anybody. All right, I'm going to go tell everybody. I mean, it's absolute disrespect, flagrant disrespect. And there's Jesus not being respected by folks. Like, no, everybody respected him. No, they didn't. They used him. When he went to his own town, they said, hey, Jesus, heal our people. And he said, no, I'm not going to. And they tried to kill him. Go back to your Bible. 3 times they tried to kill him. I've never had anyone try to kill me. If I keep talking this way, it'll probably happen. Eventually, someone will try, you know. It's like, but it'd be kind of cool. I mean, you know, I get to tell everybody about it, write a book, become famous. You know, they tried to kill me one time. People are like, no way. 3 times they tried to kill Jesus. It's unreal. And the one time they tried to kill him was in his own town. It'd be like me coming to Springs being like, hey, everybody, you know. And then since I didn't do something for you, you stood up right in front of Mary. The Virgin Mary had to watch her own townsmen rise to kill him. And it says, very interesting, that they were going to hurl him headlong off of a hill. Remember that? I went to Nazareth and I wanted to see the hill. So I said, there's no hills. I mean, Nazareth, there's not even a hill. It's like, this is hillier than Nazareth. Okay, it's just kind of like a gentle, like slope thing. And I said, where's this hill? And the tour guide said, well, you know, there's a hill like 5 miles from here, but it's obvious this is Nazareth. So there's no way that that's the hill. And he said, well, there's some Protestant groups. I'm not putting Protestant. That's what he said. There's other groups, let's put it that way, who say that that's the hill, but that can't be the hill. And I said, well, then where's the hill? He said, well, to hurl down headlong, what that meant is that you would basically pile drive him. So you don't need much of a drop off to pick a man up like this and smash his head and break his neck into the ground. And that's how they were going to kill him. His soccer coach, Jesus' soccer coach, was like, get over here. I'm going to pile drive you and smash your head in the ground right in front of Mary. Mary's like, Ralph. Ralph's like, I'm going to kill. I mean, like, isn't that weird? And they were going to kill him because he refused to do miracles in his hometown. Now, how does that feel? How does that feel to be used like that? You guys don't even love me. Would you listen to me? I am the bread of life. And they all grumble against him. You are not the bread of life. He's like, I just fed 5,000 of you with a bunch of loaves and a couple of fish. And then you're going to tell me I'm not who I say I am. What do I have to do to prove it to you? And they're like, well, maybe if he rose from the dead. And he's like, even if I rose from the dead, you wouldn't believe me. Watch, I'll rise from the dead. Do you believe me? They're like, no, we don't believe you. It's crazy. He's like, I'll have my men shed their blood for you. I still don't believe you. I mean, how do I know you really exist? I mean, whoa. You start going through the miracles of the Bible. That man walked on water twice. He fed a crowd of 5,000. He fed a crowd of 3,000. He did the miracle loaves twice. He raised 3 men from the dead. Right in front of everybody. The big one, of course, Lazarus. That's right outside of Jerusalem. The Sadducees, the Pharisees, they all come over. And he's like, watch this, y'all. Lazarus, come out. And Lazarus came out. And the craziest thing is his feet and his hand were bound. So he must have been hopping like a bunny. I don't know how he did it. Kind of waddled out. He stands in the mouth of the grave at the voice of Jesus Christ. And they still don't believe him. Imagine how that must have felt. Your own people, the people of God, want to kill you. And the people that you heal want to use you. And when he hung upon the cross at the end of his life, there were 5, count them, 5 people. That's all. And every one of his best friends fled. He was betrayed unto death by his closest companion. He went through nights of agony. Remember the agony in the garden? My soul is sorrowful even unto death. I could die from the anxiety that I'm feeling. And I know you've been there. We've all been there. And none of us ever want to go back to anxiety like that. And you lay there and you toss and you turn and you say, what the heck am I going to do? And you can't sleep. And you kind of wish I had a way out. There's got to be a way out of this. And there is no way out. and the afflictions that happen to your children, and you'd wish that you happened to you instead of happened to them, but it didn't. It happened to them. And then that totally gets in the way of your whole marriage. And then your wife is changed and you're changed, and you're like, my life stinks. My life stinks and I want to die. And we lay there because that's the realism of our life, and that's what it means. And you say, why am I going through this? And you look at the image of our Lord in the agony and blood coming out of his pores like sweat, sweating blood. You realize there's something else happening in my life. My life is bigger than I think it is. My friends, your lives are bigger than you think they are. That battle between God, or between the devil and God, because again, God's quite happy. Between the devil and God, God is winning that battle through you. You stand in the breach between the pit of hell and the sheep of Christ. And in our sufferings, we make up what is lacking in the suffering of Christ for the salvation of the church. And my anxiety and my pain and my business losses and my fears and all of that are consumed within me by a choice that I make to lay down my life for my family. I'm here with a message I think that goes a lot deeper than politics, and it goes a lot deeper than everything. It's the message of the priesthood of Christ. And we who are members of his body are called to sacrifice ourselves like him. Because the defeat of the world and of evil happens at the cross, when he himself lays down his life unto death freely and out of love for God and out of love for a broken world. And this is why he tells his apostles, this is what you got to do. So when you leave this conference, you're like, what am I supposed to do? Well, you're supposed to pray. You're supposed to join Inferno. If you haven't, you need to join Inferno. You need to do all those things. We're going to talk about them all over again. Pray the rosary, all the family consecration. Okay. But I want to get to an even deeper thing, trying to understand what the heck God is doing in our world. And I'm telling you what he's doing in our world. He's saving it. It's just that victory of salvation requires the lambs of sacrifice. It requires priests. It requires you. The thing that defeats evil is the priesthood of Jesus Christ. And the priesthood of Jesus Christ, it's him offering himself in the face of evil by a love within that triumphs over the evil, to the glory of the Father under the eternal Spirit of God. Hebrews chapter 10. Go back and read it. Offering himself under the emotion of the eternal Spirit. We look towards the Father and we say, I will endure. In the end, that's what this is all about. You're like, what does that mean practically? It means that you stand your ground. Yep, bad times will come and the winds will howl and rain is going to blow and it's going to be terrible. And I'm going to endure. You go back in St. Paul, there's a word he uses, which I love very much. It's called hypomenain. Hypomenain. It means grit. Isn't that great? That's why we eat them for breakfast. The official breakfast food of Inferno. Grits. Hypomenain. 37 times St. Paul uses that verb. 37 times. Because St. Paul was one bad dude. You look at his life and you're like, what did he do? He never quit. That's what he did. He failed more times than you can shake a stick at. He got beat out of town. He got mobbed 6 different times. He finds himself being torn to pieces by a mob. Once they even stoned St. Paul. They stoned him and left him for dead. 3 times he was scourged. 5 times he was whipped. 39 times. He had 195 whiplashes on his back. He had 3 times he was scourged. That's 39 lashes with bits of metal in him to rip his skin off. He was caned. I mean, the guy was just like and then he walked, at one point he walked all the way, if you take a look at it, from his hometown all the way to Philippi, 800 miles across Turkey. 800 miles this guy's walking. And he's just doing it every single day. No food, no water. By the time he gets all the way to Corinth on his second missionary journey, he's all by himself, having been put in prison and done 3 successive mobbings. And you're like, was he a success? Not by the world standards. Was he a success? Yes, because he was a father. And St. Paul in his flesh gave birth to the church. Because Jesus Christ in his flesh birthed the church when? When his heart was opened, hanging dead on the cross, and water and blood came out. This is what I'm saying, folks. We cannot trade in the victory of the cross for any other victory. God won't have it any other way. And there will be all kinds of voices that'll come. Catholic right, Catholic left, Catholic blogosphere. This is our victory. This is our victory. It's a temporary victory. It's a small victory. Good. Fight all those fights. But don't you forget why the Mass is the center of our faith. Because the Mass is the sacrifice of Christ on the cross. That I live myself. And so I lay it down and I say, God, no matter what comes my way, I'm not quitting. And no matter what the devil throws in my way, I'm persevering. My response to evil is to stand. Now, you know where I'm going with this, right? Because I look at the one who crushes the head of the serpent. And I see her at the foot of the cross, John says, stood. Juxta crus Jesum stabat mater. It's incredible. Juxta crus Jesum. Next, near the cross, stood his mother. All that comes her way, she takes. Because there's someone in her bigger than the one that's in the world. That's the wisdom of the cross and its foolishness to those who are perishing. But to those who are being saved, it is the wisdom and the righteousness of God. Do not be like those who are perishing. Realize that our victory is like Mary, to look to the Father and to offer it. Bring it. I am a lamb of sacrifice in the hands of God. And he can transform this world more by our patient endurance than he can by our fine words or by our wonderful programs or all the different things that we do and we need to do. But we need to do them like saints, man. And sanctity, it looks like Jesus Christ, the rugged one, hanging on the cross. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. And with a loud cry, he breathes his last. And he offers his life. I think there's no other word that I have for you today than Jesus. And to live his mystery, it means being victorious with a spirit inside of you that no election, no economy, no whatever can take away. It's called freedom. To be free from this world. To be free from the cares of every arrow that the enemy can throw your way, because the one who's inside of you is bigger than the one who is inside of them. I'm taking it to the world and I'm taking it to the culture because I found wisdom. I know what this is all about. It's all about the Father in the Son who's in me and the offering under the Holy Spirit. I'd like to prepare us for adoration and of the King of Kings who's going to be on this stage. And I'd like to do it by giving us a chance to talk among ourselves. So for those of you who are in the back, I want you to group up. And if you guys are at your table, you can just turn to each other. And if all your friends at the other table, you can join each other. I don't care. We're going to have a little chance for you to talk to each other. Here's what I want you to say. We all know our worries. We all know what we're scared about. Here's what I want you to say. I want you to say why you're going to stay strong. What is it in your life that's your secret? And if you had anything after that, you can keep on talking. You're like, that's a weird question. But then again, it's kind of like If 4 men can speak to each other about why they can stay strong or what they're going to do after this conference, that's your second question. What am I going to do from this conference that's different in my life? I think that we'll have preached the